Well, I have that we're at the top of the hour here, so I want to just do one quick last reminder about the housekeeping, and we'll let the show be off and running here. So I want to welcome everybody into today's program. It's the Forum presented by Bankers Compliance Consulting. My name's Jared Moyer. I'm going to be moderating the program. The program is Building a Healthy Compliance Culture with an emphasis on team unity. We want to help you build culture within your organization and do it in a healthy format. So a couple of quick instructions here. First off, there is a short outline for today's program that if you haven't already accessed, you can go to the chat icon in the Zoom control panel. Our team is going to place a link there that will allow you to download that very short outline so that you can take the notes along the way today. You'll also be able to use that chat icon for any logistical or technical issues that you have with the program today, audio, visual, things like that. You can chat with our team. Now, I mentioned I'm going to be moderating the program today. That means you get to interact and ask questions. You can begin doing that immediately. We ask that you use the Q&A button within the Zoom control panel to do that. I'll receive those questions, and Dave and I will throw them out for discussion at the conclusion of the program today. We'll try to answer as many as we can during the program. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the lead today, Dave Dickinson.
All right. Thank you, Jared. And in fact, I think I've got control here. We love the technology. But so let me do this. Who am I to be talking to you about culture? Well, I like to start out with a little bit of fun. I was born a very small child. You can see a baby picture of me there. But in 1990, I actually went to work for the FDIC, and that afforded me an opportunity to get to see hundreds of banks. I got to be in different banks that were all doing the same thing, but in different ways. And I really enjoyed talking to bank presidents and chairmen and senior management about why they did things the way they did them. There's more than one way to run a company, if you will. In 1993, I actually started Bankers Consulting, and I got the opportunity to then be driving the culture of a company. But I'll admit to you that I was not a good boss. We did not have a good culture, and it really took about 15 years. It was 2008 when I really just decided I had to step back and figure out how to be a better manager. And I realized that I had hundreds of organizations that I worked with as clients, plus different civic organizations, et cetera. So I started making up a list of bank presidents and leaders that I admired that I thought were doing things well. And I called them up and I said, hey, if I take you to lunch, will you give me an hour of your time? And I started interviewing these people and just asking them, what are you doing? Why is your bank better than this bank? And nobody really talked about culture back in 2008. We might have used, that there was, I'm at a loss of words here, but we have, help me out, Jared. What do you call when you have your vision statements and your things up on the wall, if you will?
Mission statement?
Say again.
The mission statement?
Thank you. Mission statements and all those kinds of things. I couldn't think of that, right? So no, everybody was using those words, but culture really wasn't something that people talked about. And I'm going to tell you that there's something coming up in your book here really soon that you're going to see, but it's the main thing that I got as I started interviewing literally 100 people was communication was number one. Now, how does that equate over to compliance, you might say? And it was something that I started preaching about in 2009 and 2010, that good compliance programs had a good culture in them. And I remember being asked to write an article for the American Bankers Association, and they said, you can write on any topic you want, thinking that I would talk about flood or HMDA or something like that. And I said, I want to write on culture. And I remember the editor of the ABA magazine said, well, no, pick something else. Nobody wants to read about that. And I said, I don't think you understand. I think this is the foundation of everything. In fact, let me see if I can go there. I came up with this House of Compliance, I called it. Here we go, up on your screen now. And this is a diagram that we had built, but you'll notice that this is all the different components of a compliance management system. But on the bottom of that house is the foundation of culture. And without a healthy culture, your compliance management system is never going to win. In fact, you're fighting a losing battle. And so it's really become a personal agenda of mine to talk about culture and how important that is. This is more than compliance, but yet it has everything to do with compliance. So I'm going to take us back here, but that's really what we're trying to get in, is that your organization has a culture to it, or organizational health. The question is it good or bad? So Every organization. Now, we can go outside of banking even. I'm involved with economic development here in my town and Chamber of Commerce and church and things like that. Your family has a culture to it. The question is it healthy? And there is a culture. So what really is cultures I want to talk to you about. Now, you've got an open space. I want you to be taking notes and thinking about these things. But really, what is culture? And just think back to some of your experiences. You probably have worked at different places or been involved in civic organizations where there's good ones and there's bad ones. And you just kind of understand culture is just, it's like the atmosphere. It's the behaviors of the people. In fact, it really is the organizational health, and trying to explain that, whether good or bad, is a little bit different to quantify. And that's what I want to do today, is talk about what it is and then how are we going to get it better. Now, there's a guy that I read called Alan Weiss, and Alan Weiss wrote a book called $1 Million Consulting, and he consults consultants like myself, if you will, and he says that culture represents that belief system that governs our behavior. Again, it's the foundation of things. I want to add to that, it's just how you do stuff. It's how we operate. So a couple years ago, I think now 2011 or 12, I think it was GM had like the largest penalty put on them for a safety recall on vehicles. And I was reading through this report, and they talked about the people that went and investigated them, that there were posters on the wall that said safety first, safety first, safety first. And there were people that said, yep, we've been through safety training, and they can check the boxes and all that. But when you talk to the people, the behavior of the organization was not safety first. Safety was third or fourth. And so it's not posters on a wall. It's rather how we operate. I recently came across this, and I don't know who said it. I wish I would have grabbed this, but it said, if the brand is the face of your organization, we worry a lot about our brand and our marketing. That's the face of our company. And culture's our soul. I love that. I feel like that's exactly what we're talking about here. Is it's just how we operate. It's who we are. It's how we do business. And I'm going to tell you, at Bankers Point Consulting, it has become my number one job as the president of this company is to protect the culture. So how we hire people, how we communicate, how we let people go is all based on our culture of operations. And we're very intentional about that. I wish I had more time. We can spend hours talking through about how to get better. I'm going to specifically pick just one thing today called unity, and we're going to work on that. Now, let's go a little further. Why is this so important? I've already explained to you it's the soul of us. There's a guy named Patrick Lencioni that wrote a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He also wrote a book called The Advantage. And in The Advantage, he talks about organizations being smart. So section B in your outline there, you'll see this, that the smart organization is one that has good technology, finance, strategies, marketing. And you probably have a CEO, and you have a chief marketing officer and a chief financial officer and all those. And those people can twist dials, if you will, and maybe throw more resources or less resources at certain things, and we can become smarter. Now, I'm going to ask you, think about the exchange of information anymore. It used to be that I literally read the Federal Register. It would come out in like a newsletter a couple days late. I'd get Monday's Congressional Report, Federal Register, like on Thursday, and I would read about new regulations, and then I would put together summaries, and I would send that out to all of you, and you were behind then like a month from things, but nothing goes into effect just immediately, and so it was timely enough. Anymore, I'll get a call some days and somebody said, hey, did you see this? I haven't seen an email out of the regulatory agencies yet on it. Information is so fast to be shared and exchanged anymore that I really don't believe that this company is smarter than that company in the sense of these types of things. We all have access to smart people, and we all have information that is so readily available that the real advantage of being smart is not there. It's on the health side, if you will. So what do I mean by healthy? That your organization doesn't do politics. We don't have arguments just to win, that we're working together. There's not confusion because we're communicating well. Morale is high. Productivity is high. And because of that, there's low turnover. Now think about it the other way. If there's high turnover, you constantly have to train people on basics, and you can't get to the evolution where people are adding value, and morale isn't as high because there's new people and we're not together and working well. So Lencioni goes along, and I absolutely agree with this, except for one thing, and I'll come to in a minute. But if you take SMART and you add the health, that's where you get the true success. Now, Lencioni's wrote, I don't know, 5, 6 number one or bestseller books. He goes all over the country and commands high fees and really is an expert in this area. But I'm going to tell you, I disagree with him on one thing. His linear formula of SMART plus healthy is not true. I believe it's SMART times healthy. And I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. If I ever see him again and he hears that I said that about him, I will say I agree. But I'm trying to, in a sense, put even more emphasis on what he's saying. It's exponential. So if you're thinking about this from a linear mathematical formula, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're smart, and on a scale of 1 to 10, your health, I'm telling you, if we had a 7 in smart, but your health is a 2, I might even argue that you're not even batting 7. You might even be negative. But if we can take your health and move it up to 7 or 8 or 9, you're doing 63 now, if you will, in success. And I know that's all just kind of hearsay, just funny numbers. But the point is, it is dramatical how much difference working on the health can be. This guy named Peter Drucker, if you're not familiar with him, he is a management consultant, one of the world renowned, and he says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. In other words, we can strategize all we want, but if we don't have a good, healthy culture, it ain't happening. Now, I want you to think about this from a to-do list. How are we going to do culture? And immediately, most of us as compliance kind of people, or even just bankers, I hope that there's management today, maybe directors that are listening into this as well, but we're left-brain people. Let's admit it. We're logical. We're bankers. So we think in a way that isn't artsy. And so if you gave me a list, for instance, if I tore a ligament in my left arm here a year ago, and I went to the doctor and I went to the physical therapist, and they gave me a checklist, and I worked that checklist. I will run that list all day, and I will do exactly the instructions they give me so that I get better. But when it comes to culture, there really isn't a checklist that you can do. In fact, it's more about we need to have good communication. How do you quantify that? It's not like I can say I've done it. It's we do it all the time. I'll give you another analogy. I take very seriously as a husband that my wife needs to know that I honor and cherish her. So every day when I wake up, I roll over and I look at her and I say, I love you, babe. And then I grab the checklist off my nightstand and I mark that off because I completed that task for the day. Okay. I hope, especially ladies, you're laughing with me. That was meant to be funny. That just wouldn't score any points, would it? And you're defeating the whole purpose of trying, oh, you check that off? Really? That's how you do it? So that's not going to work. It isn't something that we can say, we did it. Let's move on to something else now. It's how we operate. I want to show you a video, and you're not going to be able to hear it, but the words are going to be on there, and it's from Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines has a great culture. And one of the things, if you've ever flown them, you'll know they say, we like to have fun. So I'm going to put this video up. This is of their safety briefing. And you can read along here from this flight attendant that is giving her safety message. Notice, I'll just let you read along there. What I want you to catch is when they show the people on the plane, they're paying attention. I fly a lot. I typically do not pay attention to the flight attendants as they give their safety briefings, but she's giving deadly serious information. I mean, if we crash, this is what you need to know. And people are paying attention. Now, on most flights, again, we don't pay attention to that. So their culture of we're going to have fun actually makes something that is deadly serious. It's more important than filling out TRID or flood or an APY disclosure, I guarantee you. And notice the people are actually paying attention. Okay? So they've got their attention there, and I hope that you're all able to see this. If you don't, go out and just YouTube Southwest Airlines safety briefings. You will not see a few of these. You'll see hundreds of these because this is what they do. They have the motto of we have fun. So I hope you are with me that culture is important. How do you get an effective culture? What do you do to make culture work? And that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of this time. Jared, I see you popped in. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I might just want to interject here real quick. Is one of the whys behind this presentation today. If you read whoever's your regulator, whether it's the FDIC, the OCC, NCUA, whoever, when they write their quarterly whatever bulletins, one of the things that is constantly written within those paragraphs is culture. It's become a huge deal with the regulators. It's something they're measuring you on. And like Dave said, if we had more time today, we can get into a lot of nuts and bolts there, but management's being measured on this, even if they may not quite see it right in front of them.
I'm so glad you threw that in, Jared. And I want to go, I told you so, right? Because 10 years ago, I started tooting this horn, and it was interesting. This is going to be off the top of my head, Jared, but I think it was 2015, the New York Fed started offering a full day conference on culture. And if I remember right, the OCC, somewhere around 2015, 16, they changed their exam manuals to adding a chapter on culture. And now everybody has that. It is part of an effective compliance management system. We can go back to board oversight, and we can talk about all those pillars in that house. But you're just beating your head against the wall if you don't have a good culture, right? So you're absolutely right. So thank you for adding that. So let me do this. I'm going to ask you all a question, and it has to do with how we're going to get healthy. But what sound does the conductor of an orchestra make? Just think about that for a minute. The answer is none, right? This. But their job is to what? It's to create unity. Now, it's not unison. I want to talk about two words that are close here. Unison, we all do and act and sound the same. And I'm actually very musical. I play a couple instruments. I like to sing. I've been involved in music all my life. Unison is boring. I want harmonies. But the point is, we're all going to start and stop at the same time. We're going to the same beat of the drummer. We're in the same key and tempo, but we're playing different roles, all working together in unity to create a more beautiful thing, if you will. And I know I'm being kind of artsy here, but that's what I want to discuss today, is unity is a measure or a necessary component of creating a good culture. There's a guy named Dave Ramsey. You might know him as the financial guy. He wrote a book called Financial Peace University, has a radio talk show. He talks a lot about finances. But he wrote an article about 5 enemies of unity. And I picked up on this years ago, and I want to add my things to his. I absolutely agree with him that these 5 enemies of poor communication, gossip, unresolved disagreements, lack of a shared purpose, and sanction incompetence, that's unity killers. So we're going to work on being more unified and having a stronger unity by attacking these types of things. So let's start out with the first one there. Letter A, poor communication. Now, if you remember what I said to you when I went back and interviewed like 100 CEOs, the number one thing I got was that winning organizations have strong communication. It was a statement that I wrote back 2008 or 2009. Winning organizations have strong communications. There's really some derivatives that I want to talk about, and that's letting people know what's going on, good or bad. So I want this to be a two-way street. As the president of Bankers Finance Consulting, I need to hear from all of my team members of what's going on. I cannot manage what I don't know. So good news or bad news, you got to give it to me. But that's also from me down, right? So I need to express to the team, here's what's going on, good or bad. Let people know what's going on. Information isn't wrong or bad or like that. It's just information, and then we can deal with it at the time. The other part is when I share with my team, I might say, I'd like to do this. If I give them a chance to argue with me, to debate with me, to give their opinions, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do it a certain way or that they win or I win or anything like that. But rather, when people feel like they've been heard, they're more likely to buy in. That's where good communication is. So you can see that I put up on the screen, when people don't unload their opinions and feel like they've been listened to, they really don't get on board. People won't buy in unless they've been understood and heard. And I can tell you that I'm a very quick decision maker. I might throw out an idea and say, this is what I think we're going to do. But I put that out so that I can glean from everybody. How does this affect you? What do you think? What do you see? And I'm a visionary person. I can say, do you see this? I've got people that are very tactical that then will come up and say, look, you're not thinking about this or that. I might say, you're right, but we're still going to do that. Or you're right. Yeah, let's pull back. We communicate. We actually have healthy discussion. We argue over things and not necessarily always in a, Jared, I'm going to ask you to come in here. I'm going to ask you to give your opinion. Not always in a nice way we argue, correct? I mean, we get pretty dramatical sometimes and have good, healthy arguments.
Sure. And those go a long way in the success of a company, of a business, and the culture. But there's another element there that I know we don't have time yet, but trust, that comes with trust, able to have those healthy debates and things like that. And I want to throw one other thing out here with the information that Dave's presenting right now, the communication. He's talking about what needs to be communicated. Don't forget the why. People need to know why you're bringing whatever it is to the table, because people don't buy into what you do. They buy into why you do it. And that's also another topic, but I think that's an additional layer here.
Yeah. Simon Sinek's talk on whys, right? Yeah. Very good. So what I found was that good leaders and healthy organizations err on the side of saying too much. Never fear over communicating. I've never met anybody that just said, I can't take this place. And they just communicate too much. I'm out of here. So you need to understand that most people need to hear things over and over and over. You have to repeat messages if you're a compliance officer. If you're the leaders of an organization, you need to explain things over and over and over in different mediums. It's not just verbal. Some of it's going to be through written and maybe video versus audio, things like that. In fact, what I want all of you to do is write down these 3 letters. I want you to be a CRO. You might be going Chief Risk Officer. No, it's a Chief Reminding Officer. They tell us that we have to hear things 7 times before they really sink in. Now, I'm not going to debate all that with the behavior scientists, but 7 times to effectively get things. I can tell you, as compliance people, get left-brained, and then we're usually way out there left-brained, and some of your bosses might be going, yeah, and if you're a marketing person, you're looking at the compliance officer going way left-brained, right? Us left-brained people, we like, hey, I told you that once. 2011, I sent you an email. In fact, I can send it to you again if you'd like, because I still have it. I guarantee, and I saw that you opened it, by the way, right? So I hope you're laughing with me, but that's our mentality. We're organized, and we know we said it once, we shouldn't have to say it again. But that's not human behavior. So we need to remind people over and over and over. Think about leadership too. If you're not a compliance officer in leadership, think about family organizations, think about any civic organizations. We've got to repeat messages. Winning organizations have a culture of communication. That's the statement that I wrote down several years ago. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about how can we best communicate, effectively communicate. One more thing along this line. I don't like passive. I don't like aggressive. We want to be assertive. So I came up with, or I didn't come up with this, I saw this. It's unfair to be unclear. You need to say what you mean what you say, but never say it meanly. And that's part of good communication. It's unfair if you're not clear with me, if I don't understand. It's not fair for me to tell somebody to do something and then not explain what or why or whatever. I got to make sure that everything's understood. So I'm going to repeat things. I'm going to make sure that it's clearly understood, but I'm not playing games. I can't read your mind. And you don't have a right to be aggressive, and I don't have a right to be aggressive. That's meanly. So say what you mean what you say, never say it meanly. Now, again, what are we doing here? We're talking about creating unity, right? Wouldn't it be great if everybody adopted this model? And it's not that you always have a right to your say. You don't have a right to come in and just call me stupid. I mean, right? That's just mean. So there's some rules here, but you do need to give me information so I can manage, and I need to hear from you. So I cannot manage what I don't know. Give it to me. Make sure that it's understood. Never say it meanly. All right, I'm going to switch over to letter B here, and that is an enemy of unity is gossip. Now, this is a tough one. A lot of us think about gossip as being saying something negative. So I'm talking about Jared to somebody else on our team. And if Jared was there, I certainly probably wouldn't be talking like I am, right? That's gossip. We all get that. I'm going to go bigger than that. I'm going to tell you that the definition of gossip in our company is anything that is negative said to anyone that can't fix it. Now, that's not just about somebody. That can be about our company as a whole. It can be about a client. It can be about equipment. So, Jared, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, but let's imagine that Jared's having a problem with his computer, and he comes into Mindy, one of our administrative team members, and says, Mindy, this piece of crap computer I got that Dave gave me, it's always having problems. And he's just spewing cancer, if you will, right? He's giving negative information. Now, I love that Jared's passionate about his job. He's saying this equipment is slowing me down. If Jared's doing a good job and he's passionate, he's going to bump into things and people, and that's awesome because that tells me he's not just doing his job, he's wanting to do more. And these things are slowing him down. That's awesome. But Mindy doesn't handle our computers. She isn't our IT expert. She doesn't buy computers. She isn't going to be able to fix it. So Jared is spewing cancer to the wrong person. Instead, Jared needs to go up to the person, that'd be Jamie on our team, that actually buys computers, that maybe can get him help. And it might be, Jared, did you try Control Delete? It might be that, right? Sorry. It might be, yeah, Jared, yeah, that's sorry. We just can't afford a new computer right now. You have to live with it. It might be, hey, let's get you a new computer. But we need to pass negatives up and only up. Now, I'm going to go the other way. We pass praise all around. We, every Monday, have a Monday morning meeting. It's a 5-minute stand-up meeting. What's going on in your world? What's going on in your world? What are we doing? We're sharing. Hey, it looks like you're busy. We can pass that over here. We do that all the time. Praise, wins is part of our Monday morning meeting and our monthly team meetings. We have celebrations. This client said that, or we won here. But negatives only go to people that can fix it. Now, if Jared goes to Jamie and Jamie says, deal with it, maybe then that comes up to me and Jared says, hey, I'm having a problem, but that's the only place that it goes. It doesn't go lateral to other people that can't fix it. So, Jared, did you come in because I was picking on you here? Do you have something you want to add to that?
Well, I think I want to just interject a little bit here. So I've been lucky enough to be on the team it'll be 15 years in January. And I think, Dave, you mentioned it was about 2008-ish that we made some of these changes, and they've evolved over time. So I spent a good amount of time where we didn't spend the same amount of time on culture. And I'll be honest, and some of you listening, maybe you're hearing this for the first time, this gossip one, when it was brought to the table, it was out there. It was like, come on, there's no way. And I can tell you, Dave talked about being exponential with the healthy. This thing is exponential. Now, it's one of the hardest things to do. Yes. I mean, this takes some self-policing, some accountability amongst teammates, but it is exponential, and it does cause a change with the health factor within your organization. I know it sounds kooky, but it's a really great concept.
Well, and this one is difficult, right? I mean, Jared, you and I, everyone saw, right? We have, hey, guilty gossip, So let's talk about it here. I need to be policed on this. You need to be policed on this. We all in this country, we just gossip, and it's become second nature. And I don't want to get political, but it's like we can just make fun of anybody we want, say anything we want, and put it out there. Here's what I want you all to do. Think about this. If you can't fix it, if there's no benefit in you knowing, if there's nothing you can do, ask yourself, can I do anything about this? Do I need to know this? And if the answer is no, here's what you need to do. Do I need to hear this? Literally, put your hand up, stop sign. Do I need to hear this? If you can just start doing that, that would really help. I just absolutely believe we've got to stop the person from gossiping. Jared, sometimes you have to say to me, Dave, do I need to hear that? And we've got to hold each other accountable. I want you to think about this. Gossip isn't just talking negative about people, right? It's about business operations and equipment and things like that. I want you to write this down, would you please? How can you pour sour milk on your cereal and then complain that it tastes bad? Write that down. How can I pour soured milk on my cereal and then complain that it tastes bad? If you draw a paycheck from a company and you're talking negative about that company, you're pouring soured milk on your company where you get your cereal. How can I pour soured milk on my cereal and then complain that it tastes bad? And yet it's so common. That's my first test for you. Second, gossip is like a cancer. It's just negative germs. And attitudes are contagious, right? In the very beginning, I showed a screen of a healthy culture and the lady with her head down and a negative culture. You probably have worked or been involved with both good and bad cultures. They're contagious. They really are. Winning teams, sports teams, just continue to win, and losing teams often lose. Why? Because there's a contagious mentality that happens in those organizations. Bad or good attitudes. And we just don't tolerate bad attitudes here. We really just, if you can't not gossip, be gone. We won't allow that. Number three, gossip creates inefficiencies. And I could go on and on and on about this, but people waste time taking up other people's causes. And usually it is not accurate. It's something that gets, something they can't fix. It gets blown out of proportion, etc. But if we're taking up somebody else's cause, why? That person should come directly to me. Jared has a problem with the computer. He goes directly to Jamie, not to Mindy, those kind of things. And fourth, I just want you to think about this. People that will gossip to you will gossip about you when you're not there, right? Who wants to be part of an organization of gossips? And I'm going to tell you, champions don't. And we only employ champions here. So we don't allow gossip. So we just say, you're not going to work here if you're going to be that way, because that's not how champions want to operate, and they don't want to be around that. So again, hold up your hand. Do I need to hear this, or what can I do to fix it? And if the answer is none of these, then it's gossip. So I'll leave that. That's a tough one. But I tell you what, if I could get one thing fixed in this world, that would be it. Let's stop gossiping. And I think everybody agrees with that. It's doing it is a little different. So, all right, let me go to the next one. Unresolved disagreements, kind of back to communication again. And these typically result from poor communication or a fear of conflict. And Jared started to allude to that. We don't have time today to get into this 5 dysfunctions of a team, but it starts with trust. We have to have trust before we can have healthy conflict. And healthy conflict is so essential to making good decisions, things. So oftentimes we have unresolved disagreements because issues do arrive. I hear all the time, business is great if I didn't have to deal with people. Right? Well, that isn't going to happen. So we're going to have issues occasionally. And I just want you to think about this. Let's just say that there's somebody here on our team and that person's showing up a few minutes late to work. And boy, I noticed that on Monday morning, 8:05. And then the next day. But I don't say anything. It's 8:05, coming in late again. Those things start to fester in me. And what may be on my scale of 1 to 10, my Richter scale of issue, it's a 1 or a 2. But now it's happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and by Friday, oh my gosh, I go into that person's office and I say, you realize you've been late every day this week, and now it's like a 7. Why? Because I didn't deal with it. What if I find out that their spouse is maybe sick and they're having to drop off the kids at school before they come here, or they're dealing with one's car instead of 2, or something just going on that now that I know that. Most of the time, it's because of poor communication that we have unresolved disagreements. So my answer to this is you need to act quickly and decisively. If not, those things fester. It's kind of like the sliver in your skin where you let it say and you keep, someday I'm going to dig that out, and it gets worse and it gets worse. Now, there's another alternative to that, and that's let it go. But if you can't let it go, if it's a hill worth dying on, if you will, then you need to go have that conversation. And again, this is tough. This is where we have to go have the difficult conversations sometimes. Make sure that you're not letting things that are festering in you continue. Now, again, we're talking about unity. Why? Because it's unfair to be unclear in a sense, and this is festering in me. And so it starts to become a block between us, and it's killing our unity is what this unresolved disagreement is all about. All right, then fourth one, Lack of a shared purpose. Now, I'm just going to put it up on the screen here. You can't have unity without a common goal, common mission, common vision, all from a common dream. So yes, the mission statements are appropriate, and we need those things. We need to understand where we're going. We are doing this together. This is where we're marching to. This is why we're working hard. This is why we're doing things. There's this intellectual alignment, I like to call it. And we need to over communicate. Here's what we're doing. It's the why over and over and over. And if we get that, we can fight for the cause. As Jared brought in the Simon Sinek, the why behind the what. It's a shared purpose. This is why we do what we do. All right. The fifth one is a tough one. Sanctioned incompetence. Gruner and Whitaker are two consultants that speak together, and they wrote a book. And in their book, they said the culture of the organization is shaped by the worst behavior that the leader is willing to tolerate. Right? So we've got people that are performing here, and we bring in this person and they perform down here. And everybody performing up here says, gosh, why am I working so hard when this person's working down here? Pretty soon, everybody starts performing at that level. Sanctioning the incompetence of whatever. Maybe it's an attitude. Again, I'm going to go back to the unresolved disagreements. Maybe you're not addressing something. So get good communication. Talking about unity killers, building up a strong culture means that you cannot sanction incompetence, whether it be behaviorally or some type of skill that somebody needs. But that is a unity killer. Now, I'm going to go a little further with this. I was actually a lieutenant in the Army, and when I first became a lieutenant, I had a first sergeant. First sergeant, if you don't understand, been through Vietnam. He had been around 20-some years at this point. I'm brand new to the military, yet I'm in a position of authority or leadership over this first sergeant. Okay, it's just crazy. But the idea is that I've been trained to manage, and he's trained to do things. So he's got a lot of experience. And he's risen up in the enlisted ranks. And I tell you what, very wise first sergeant. I was very lucky to have him. He said this to me one of the first days that I'm in his organization, his company. He said, leadership is a series of difficult conversations. Now, don't stop there, but make sure you've got that written down. Leadership is a series of difficult conversations. He didn't stop. He added, leaders have them and cowards do not. I never had to write that down. That lasered across my forehead and into my brain, and I understood exactly what he meant. Leadership is a series of difficult conversations. If you are in any kind of leadership role, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a parent, it's difficult, right? It's tough sometimes. And it just seems like we're constantly, if we're having to deal with people. But I have to get reminded. In fact, Jamie here on our team one day reminded me, how long are you going to coddle that? She said. And it just slapped me that she's right. I knew there was something that needed to be addressed, and I wasn't taking care of it. And so one of our fellow leaders comes alongside of me and says, hey, are you going to take care of this? Or are you going to sanction this? You're going to coddle this kind of thing. That's tough. So I love this next quote I got from Craig Rocho. Every large problem was a small problem that I just didn't address. Isn't that great? Every large problem was a small problem that a leader failed to address. Now, again, go back to sanctioning incompetence. Everybody's watching it. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows that this is going on, and they're looking to the leader like, you're going to let this happen? And if it's in your family unit, your other kids are watching mom and dad going, really, you're going to let this happen? And what happens? Oh, you didn't? Okay, then I'm going to do that attitude next time too, right? It's just very, very common sense that we cannot sanction behavioral issues or lack of technical skills, things like that. We need training. Those are unity killers. It's kind of like the gossip. Who wants to be part of an organization that is going to let that kind of thing go on? Now, these are easier said than done. It is a constant battle. It is in the trenches all the time, and it's everybody's job. That's what's on the bottom of your page there. It's on page 2. It's everyone's job to make these 5 enemies stay gone. It's a constant fight, though. This is not something you're going to put a poster up on the wall that says we're unified and that these 5 enemies will be gone and then boof, they're gone. But it is worth it. Now, let me talk about why. Why does this matter? And I'm going to go back to what Jared was talking about a little bit with the regulatory agencies and talk about some of my experiences. But I wrote this quote down in 3A about regulatory health, that as compliance officers, if you can't lead change, you can't build an alliance if you've got this disunity, if you're not tackling these 5 enemies of unity. It is so strongly important that you have a healthy culture before you then come in and kick somebody's tires in an audit or tell them that they're doing things wrong or try to help them with, right? Because we are on a team together. We've got to understand that there's a good, strong trust level, that we have healthy conflict, that we're winning together when we communicate with these things. We're constantly going to have to battle these unity killers. So number 1 is to fight defiance and dysfunction that really leads to regulatory violations. That's the goal, in a sense, of number 1, is that's why we're going to do this. It's going to help with our regulatory health. Hard to quantify? Absolutely. But I'm telling you, it's so important. If you don't have good culture and unity, you're never going to be a strong regulatory compliance organization. Not at all. Number 2, beyond that, I believe that there's just great job fulfillment. Listen, if you're going to work so that you can get the money, so that you can buy the clothes, so you can go to work, so that you can get the money, so you can buy the car, so you can get to work, so you can get the money, so you can buy the food. Do you follow me? If that's what you're doing, if it's just work, 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 there is so much more. There's so much more fulfillment. Think about it. You spend probably more time with your teammates at work than you do at home with your children, with your spouse, and other types of things. And that's sad, possibly, but it's a matter of fact that we're going to spend a majority of our waking hours at work, and even more anymore because we don't disconnect at home, still checking our phones and emails and things like that. Wouldn't it be great if we got along with those that we served with? And so the team building types of things and just knowing that there's good, healthy things that are going on, doesn't mean there's never conflict, but it's healthy. We're not having as much stress. So culture leads to a happier, healthy, all-around life. And then last, I was telling you in the beginning that smart organizations come from those that don't just have good information, but that also have good, healthy organization, and they become smarter. It's so true that as you improve your culture, your organization will get smarter. Why? We're not playing politics. We're not playing games with information. We're actually sharing things, and we're able to get things done in a better way, accomplish more profitable. It's sure a lot more fun when those types of things are going on. Now, if you think about this, for most people, the motivation to do your best is influenced by the behaviors that you work with. We can be motivated or demotivated by the people we work with. And our commitment to working harder and the meaning that we give to our work, going the extra mile, who we are, doing what matters, can affect the meaning we give at work. So our perception, our judgment of people does have an impact on the motivation to give our best. Right? In other words, what Drucker said earlier, that organizational culture eats strategy for breakfast. Okay? Let me say it another way. If you work on your organizational health, your organization will get smarter. It's so true. Now, I like to have a little fun. The other thing is, with all this team building, sometimes we just find out that we don't have a very good team. And I want you to know that comes from despair.com there. But we're going to have some fun with stuff too. So let me do this. Jared, I see we've got a couple of questions and answers, but I just want to open this up for discussion. And I'm going to tell you, I get really nervous about now because this isn't like TRID that I can go, 1026 point whatever says, right? This is tough. But tell me what we're getting for feedback, and I'll invite all of you, go to the Q&A, not to the chat. Go to the Q&A button, type in your comments there. But Jared, and maybe you have some comments you'd like to add.
Well, I'm going to give people just a moment or two here to type some questions in. We've got a couple in the hopper here, but I want to go back to that quote that you had, that you came up with in the outline. We didn't read it aloud, but one of the things that was noted in there that I want to emphasize is change management. That's a whole nother discussion and presentation in and of itself. But Dave and I are lucky enough to go be presenters at the American Bankers Association regulatory conference year in, year out. And I can tell you the last couple of conferences, there have been multiple sessions. And even other sessions that weren't about change management directly, but intertwined it. It's kind of like complaints have been a hot button. This is kind of the next thing. Compliance management system's been a hot button. You can't do effective change management and demonstrate it unless you have a healthy culture or working towards a healthy culture, the things that we hit on during today's program. So I just want to emphasize that. We got a couple questions here, Dave. Let me tee up for the first one here. I'm going to go back to the gossip one a little bit because it's fresh, I think. But what about a person needing to vent about interactions? So let's say I'm on the team and I need to vent about the interactions of the day, or maybe I'm frustrated with a coworker. How do you handle those situations?
Yep. There's a common excuse that says, I'm just venting. I'm not really gossiping. I'm going to tell you, you're pouring soured milk on your Wheaties. Listen, I go home and I can talk to my spouse. I can talk to my dog. I can talk to somebody else outside the organization maybe and say, I need to vent about certain things. But to talk about teammates with other teammates is gossip. And I just cannot accept the excuse that I'm just venting, right? If you need to vent, you go to that person and you talk to them, or you go up, right? I didn't say you can't be frustrated. I didn't say you can't vent your feelings. It's who you're venting them to. So if you got a problem with somebody, you should go talk to that person or lay it down possibly. If you can't do that, and you feel like it's a human resource. I mean, there's all sorts of deviations, that's right. And you might have something in your head that isn't. But if we're talking about the normal, that ticks me off, or I don't like that you're always, I don't know, clearing your throat, Jared, and you're in the next cubicle over, right? And go talk to that person, or don't, and just deal with it. But if it's something that you feel like is a company policy issue or break it, you can go up. We can always go up. And then I don't want to make a big deal. Okay, so listen, you're willing to gossip to somebody else in an organization and spread the cancer, but you're not willing to go talk to the supervisor about it. Really? And that's where I think just venting is not acceptable. Now, it's lonely at the top. I can tell you that. I often say, I don't have anybody that I can talk to about certain things. I mean, my gosh, what if I got a problem with Jared and I don't really want to talk to Jared about it? So I may have to go home and talk to my wife about it. Jared, you think I've never had that? Come on, right? No, and so what I do, I go home and talk to my wife about it. And sometimes she'll look at me like, really? Why don't you go talk to Jared about that? Or she'll look at me like, really? Grow up, and you're right. I just had to vent about it maybe. You're right. But I can do that maybe outside. Not inside. But
I think I'd add to it. Just think about the energy you spend not going to that person or just venting in general. Go spend the energy taking care of the problem, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you get to move on to the next thing.
Right. And if we didn't, wouldn't there just be a lot less? Let me say it, crap that goes on if we just stopped venting sometimes. Oh, I'm just venting. That's not an acceptable excuse to me. Sorry, that's pretty hard. I know that's hard. And this is a radical change. I'm going to add one thing to this, Jared. I had a pastor that told me one time, he said, I wish everybody in my church would take up smoking if they could stop gossiping. And I was like, what? And he said, listen, smoking hurts them. And I really don't want people to smoke, but it would hurt them. Gossip hurts the person they're talking about, the person they're talking to, and it hurts themselves. And you realize there's a lot more damage. It's 3 times. So just take that figuratively. I don't want anybody to start smoking, but that's what he was saying. I thought that's pretty good. I like that. So what else you got?
Yeah, I'm going to take this next question and I'm going to change it just a little bit. I think we'll get the person that's asking its answer, but I think we can give it even more by changing it just a little bit. So if we have departments, let's say we've got an organization that maybe doesn't have an organizational wide healthy culture. So if we take departments that are working on it, like audit or compliance, how can they measure success? What's winning look like when the department works on a healthy culture, yet the organization isn't there yet?
And I'm going to even add more to that. I'm glad we got a little bit of time here because this is a very, very common thing. I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. We feel like we have a good, healthy culture in my team, but maybe the rest of the body doesn't. Is that kind of so? Let me address this in a couple ways. Number one, don't give me the excuse, I'm not the leader. Yeah, if the boss would hear this, boy, then if they change, then it would make it a lot easier. Don't use that as an excuse. You need to work on your circle of influence. Okay? You go back and you start making a difference on your team, saying, we're going to attack these 5 enemies. We're going to work on doing healthy culture. If you want to know more about culture, I invite you to give us a call. I love working with institutions on culture. There's a lot more, obviously, than this, and it's easier said than done. But you start making a difference there. I guarantee you, within maybe a year or less, somebody at your up is going to come to you and go, what are you doing over there? You guys are killing it. Your team is rocking it, that kind of thing. And it's why? Because we have formed some communication, or some good, strong communication. We're not gossiping. We're not sanctioning this, etc. We're fighting these enemies of unity. And we've become unified, and we're getting things done. We're smarter, and it will grow from there. Now, Jared, you asked something a little more tougher than that, too, about like, how do you measure? How do you quantify this? Well, let me ask you this. What's the cost of this? If we're going to measure return on investment, what's the investment? What's the cost to working on your culture? And I don't know that I can put a dollar. It's not very expensive to say we're going to communicate better, right? So to me, the return on investment is exponential as well, because the cost isn't really much. Now, we might have some time that we're going to work on this, so we might do some things. There's a little bit, but it's an exponential return. So when I ask people talk about, how do I measure this? What they're saying is, what's this going to cost me? It's going to cost you. It's hard. These soft skills, no, they're hard skills. These are difficult things to do. And working on your culture, don't let me underestimate this, is very hard. So I hope, I don't know, Jared, if I'm answering the question, I'm not. Maybe is there something you want to throw in there? Is there a different answer? I could go on and on about that, but
no,
am I addressing
information? I think there's several of these questions I'm reading through them. They've got kind of the same issue behind them. So I'm going to rattle a few of them off here, and just maybe they're short answers to some of them. But I've got a supervisor who's not willing to change. I've got management that won't buy in. There's a couple questions like that. So how would an organization, or how would an employee go about culture change in an environment like that?
First off, you start working on your circle of influence. You stop gossiping. You say to people, do I need to hear this? And that's going to make a difference, right? Now, if you can't work there because the culture's bad, leave. Really, right? I mean, I know that's easier said than done. It might be you need to leave. Could be. But if you say, no, this is a good place, I would like to see this, then you just start changing that circle of influence. Now, I will also tell you, I was lieutenant in the Army. I've been a leader here at Bangor Consulting for 26 years. I sucked as a leader. I mean, I still do, and I work on it all the time. Good leaders want to hear from their people, and good leaders are not offended when someone comes to them and says, hey, I think I've got some ways to maybe help you. Now, you got to know your place, right? Know the timing and things. But maybe you say, can we, by the way, this is being videotaped. Can we watch this together? I mentioned a book called The Advantage. Talk about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, another book. Maybe you get those books and you say, can we read through these together? I would like to study this management, and you're in a position of leadership over me, and could we do this together? Talk to them. The body is never going to be healthy if it's just certain parts. And I'll give you another analogy. When I was in the military, first off enlisted as a squad leader, and then as like a platoon sergeant, and then I became lieutenant, so I'm a platoon leader and a company commander. There's a very common thing in the military that says, oh, I've got your back, and the old man wants us to do this, and that's crazy. And so I would say to my unit, my boss told us we're going to do this, but I'm going to look out for you all, so we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. That's a sickness. That's a really sick attitude, and it will kill. Why? Because the head is only as strong as the parts. So if these teams that you're on aren't working together, then the organization is not going to be healthy. And that's a little bit different talk here, but try to talk to your ups, if you will, about being a better organization. And again, maybe cue up this video if they're not sitting with you today and say, can we watch this together? We would love to come and help you be part of that. But there's also lots of information out there that you can get a hold of. So again, I don't know, Jared, again, I'm going to stop here. I could go on and on and on about that. But it's about communicating and having the guts to step out. But do you have anything else you want to add there? I mean,
well, let me just do this one more. We're getting a lot of that same thing over and over about management is letting so-and-so get away with stuff. That some of it's on that, that comment you made about the worst behavior is going to be what defines your culture.
Right.
Do you have a quick, maybe, I know you want to save some time here to close out. Do you have maybe a quick feedback on that?
Well, other than, yes, it's true, right? Because what I said, I heard people agreeing to now that they're saying, we've got a sick organization, or here, no surprise, right? Nobody's arrived in these areas, and you're going to constantly be working on these things. So maybe I'm poking a hole in your sore right now, and it hurts, and you're thinking about it. Let's not make it worse than it is. But what are we going to do about it? And that's, let's communicate. So form a time where you can talk to your boss and say, I think we can do better. I think we can be more profitable. What leader is not going to want to hear that? We can be healthier. And here's some strategies that I think that we can work on together. Can we read this book? Can we get Bangers by Consulting to come help us? Can we just start by watching this video maybe again and seeing some of these things and working on it? And again, there's lots more to come from this. Give us a call. I'd love to talk to you through and work with you. It might be you need an outside facilitators like us to come help you with those types of things. But I've got to be somewhat generality here because I don't have specifics for each one of you. But, yeah. Is there anything unique in there?
I think that wraps up. There's a lot of specifics to an individual organization, but I think you've hit the nail on the head with what needs to be done.
Well, let me wrap up with this, that working on culture is hard, and we're already starting to hear that, and it is difficult. Listen, I don't want you to underestimate, though, the cost of allowing your organization remain unhealthy or not as healthy as it could be. Grasp this opportunity. Maybe this is the first time you really thought about that, and you're saying there is an opportunity here. Listen, turning an unhealthier company into a healthy one, it's not just a massive competitive advantage. It improves the bottom line, right? And it will make a real difference in the lives of the people who work there. And that, for me, is some of the most rewarding parts, is seeing Jared grow and Jamie and everybody else on our team, making a difference in people's lives. It will be one of the most rewarding and meaningful endeavors that you'll ever pursue. So I encourage you to be intentional about that. Climb that mountain, take it. So anyway, with that, Jared, I'm gonna turn it back over to you for closing comments if we have. I think you queued this up earlier. Let me go there. Oh, well, we're gonna have to watch that 7 blinks first, but we have another forum coming up October. So it should be. Nope. Let me try that again.
Well, while you're going there, maybe let me talk about it. So we do the forum 4 times a year, and we reserve the last of the calendar year, the fourth quarter forum, for a look back and a look ahead at maybe what was missed in the past year. We want to make sure that you dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and that you're prepared going forward. We're also going to peer off into the future and say, all right, what's up ahead? What could we be facing? Also allows you to go back and share with management the things that you got accomplished in the last year. Maybe you got to get ready for that performance review, as well as prepare them for what's up ahead, resources, things like that, budgeting. So we'd love to have you get registered for that. Our team is going to place a link in the chat icon that will take you directly to our website so you can register for that. Again, it's free. We'd love to have you be part of that. And also spread along. Maybe there's somebody maybe a peer that would benefit from these forums that doesn't know about it. Pass it along to them. We'd love to have them be part of the party. Dave?
Well, with that, this is being recorded. We will have this available on our website about a week from now. So you'll get a notification because you registered about that notification. I encourage you, when you come back to our website to get that, there's a place for you to rate this on a scale of 1 to 5. Give me your feedback. I can tell you, this isn't like 1026.4 C7. It's feel good stuff, and it's moving all the time. And I love your feedback. So notify us, contact us, give me your feedback, but go in and rate this. A lot of the people know, is this worth their time? Thank you for sharing the hour with us and talking about this difficult thing of culture. But it's never ending, and it's something we can always be improving upon. So we encourage your feedback and hearing from you on this. Let us know how we can help, and we'll hopefully see you in October, if not sooner than that. So thank you, Jared, for moderating and adding your comments there as well. And let's go back and work on our culture, as I could say. So
well done, sir.
Thank you all. Have a great day.